Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning and welcome again to BLAEDC's 2016 annual meeting. On behalf of our BLAEDC Board of Directors, I would like to thank all of you for joining us today to celebrate economic development efforts that Crow Wing County and the area have enjoyed in 2016, and looking forward to what 2017 and beyond have in store for us. I am Carlo Gorgas, President of the BLAEDC Board this year, and also a business owner in Crow Wing County. Our family business is Pequot Tool and Manufacturing, which started in 1981 by my parents. In the late 1980s, we were looking to expand the business, and BLAEDC was called upon to help us look for favorable financing to help the business expand. Back then, we still had double-digit interest rates, which thank goodness we don't have any today, at least not yet. BLAEDC helped us find some good financing partners for my parents to work with, and they were able to expand our business. And with 10 employees back then, today we have over 160 employees, and we know firsthand how important it is to be in a community that supports and helps businesses grow. BLAEDC continues today working with businesses from startups to growing and expanding businesses. And when the opportunity presents itself for a business to grow, BLAEDC is there with their resources to offer and help them. And many of those resources are people in this room. Whether through your financial contributions to BLAEDC, your business investments in our area, your volunteer work, offering your network or connections, or your willingness to serve in elected and appointed positions in our community. We are grateful to having all of you as resources and helping businesses in our communities grow and prosper. So a big thank you to you, our members, our elected and appointed officials in our government, our economic development partners, and business owners. We could not do it without you. And talking about people that we can't do it without, I'd like to introduce BLAEDC staff. And if they would just stand up here for a moment, I'd appreciate that. We have Sheila Haverkamp, our Executive Director. Megan, thank you. And Megan Rabine, our Office Administrator. John Gunstead, our economic, over there by the door, our economic development. And our newest addition is Mike Bjerknes, our workforce director. So Mike. And I would also like to have our BLAEDC board stand up. If you're in the room, please stand up. And you can see their faces. So here is our BLAEDC board. And thank you to all of them. Next, we have some board members that will be retiring off the board this year. And what we'd like to do is ask them to come up. So if I could have Megan and Sheila come up.
Come on, Bruce.
So if I could have, we have 4 members that are retiring off the board. And they have collectively, they've given 40 years of service between them, and we would like to recognize them today. Will Tom Anderson, Bruce Buxton, Chuck Albrecht, and Mark Ronai please come up front here, and we will recognize you. Tom, Bruce, and Chuck will continue their commitment to the Economic Development Corporation as Director Emeritus. And if I could have the audience hold your applause till I've finished with all 3 of them, I guess. All right, so we got 3 here. First, I'd like to talk a little bit about Tom Anderson. Tom has served on the board for 14 years. He helped launch the BLAEDC Exec program. And Tom, your insights and sense of humor and constant guidance and encouragement to our board and making the public more aware of BLAEDC's efforts was truly appreciated and will probably be greatly missed as well. So thank you, Tom. And next is Bruce Buxton. Bruce served for 12 years and led the way when Wausau Paper announced their plan to close their facility. He worked very hard and he facilitated a paper plant task force, assisted with prospects, and supported the current owner of Brainerd Industrial Center. Bruce, your sincere interest in BLAEDC, our community, and always having time for a quick cup of coffee with Sheila has been greatly appreciated. And Chuck. Chuck also served for 12 years and led the way in helping to grow BLAEDC's membership base. Chuck would help to recruit new members and encourage existing members to increase their contributions to BLAEDC. Thank you, Chuck. And Chuck's strong belief in giving of his time and his talent and treasures to improve our community were greatly appreciated. So thank you, Chuck. And Mark Ronai, who is not here today, Mark served on the BLAEDC board for 3 years and helped to develop our workforce initiatives. Mark's vision to move our community forward and help lead the way for our key recruitment program, which you'll hear about a little bit, will be remembered and greatly appreciated. So please help me say thank you to these 4 board members and with a round of applause. Thank you, guys. All righty. So next up, I'd like to have Sheila come back up here, and she has a little report to talk about and some of the project highlights, and as well she'll be introducing our speakers for today. So Sheila?
So good afternoon, everyone. I'm thankful that you're here. And a question that I am often asked is, how does BLAEDC expand business, build community, and grow jobs? My answer is, every year the BLAEDC board, with input from stakeholders, identifies high priority strategies that we can implement to achieve our objectives of private sector investment that will result in jobs, growth, an expanded tax base, wealth, and a diversified economy. This past year we had 6 primary strategies that you can review at your leisure in our annual report. Our first was promotion and awareness, and our effort included coordinating and holding a Minnesota Real Estate Journal Micropolitan Summit to showcase the Brainerd Lakes area. We also advertised in the Minnesota Business Climate publication, maintained relationships with our partners who bring resources and leads, and marketed through other venues to have our area's economic development messages delivered more than 150 times. Another strategy that is key to our economic development program is our business retention and expansion efforts. We have more than 2,000 companies in Crow Wing County that employ nearly 2,700 people. Excuse me, 27,000 people. 2,000 companies, 27,000 people. We need those businesses to know that they are important to our community and that they stand ready, and we stand ready to help them expand. In fact, our new key recruitment program was launched to do just that. Our exec program is special. The program has continued to evolve and will continue to do so in the years to come. Utilizing the talent of individuals in our community with tremendous levels of experience and contacts is important to BLAEDC and our area's economic development efforts. Whenever we can, we want to help our entrepreneurs, our existing companies, and new businesses considering the area by providing technical assistance. This past year, we had more than 100 prospects, and we are proud to share several success stories occurred. And I would like to take a few minutes and share examples and the role BLAEDC played. A local winery and event center is soon to be a reality for our community. This multi-million-dollar project will include a winemaking operation, a beautiful event center, a bistro, and a tasting room on 5 acres south of Brainerd. In 2009, I met Jody Drummond during a Rotary lunch meeting and was casually visiting with her about her family. Jody shared that her husband traveled to a winery in Wisconsin every week for work and would return on weekends. So I asked, had you ever contemplated a winery for the Brainerd Lakes area? Jody and Dennis claim that this was the start of a nearly 10-year journey to the Dennis Drummond Wine Company. BLAEDC's role in this project has been extensive and involved a wide range of technical assistance and support. It included arranging and attending many business planning sessions with our local SBDC, identifying and supporting the exploration of many sites and existing facilities, researching economic development programs and options to support the project, introducing local lenders, potential investors, and others who played a key role in helping to make this project a reality, engaging and supporting a news story and news coverage, and emotionally supporting the Drummonds during the many highs and lows of this endeavor. Although this project is 10 years in the making, we consider this project a success story in 2016. For the BLAEDC board and staff, this development represents the long-term commitment to a project. Projects are often a commitment to people and relationships, and a vision that will result in something good for our community. A second project that BLAEDC has been working on is the former Holiday Inn. Years ago, many of us enjoyed this vibrant hotel in South Brainerd with family who were staying there while visiting the area, celebrating birthday parties at the swimming pool, or attending events in the meeting room. But since its closing in 2013, we wonder what will become of the property. During the past year alone, BLAEDC has worked with 7 different opportunities where private companies or individuals were exploring acquisition and redevelopment of this facility. BLAEDC's staff has spent countless hours with these prospects. Although we are not always successful, long-term relationships and future opportunities are developed with each person we connect with. BLAEDC's role with these 7 prospects has varied, but included welcoming potential investors to our community, sharing information about our area and other projects occurring in the community that would support the redevelopment of this site, researching and quantifying economic development financing options, coordinating meetings with local stakeholders, developing a relationship with the property owner and their representatives, and exploring in great depth creative financing alternatives to assist with financial viability. Although the redevelopment has not yet occurred, we are hopeful that a success story will be in our future. And the final project I want to talk about today is the Brainerd Industrial Center, or former paper plant. For many years, this important property has been a priority for BLAEDC. It has a fascinating history, and its future is just as captivating. This great asset is an economic development driver for our entire area. BLAEDC's role with Mr. Mike Higgins, the current owner of the center, and his tenants has included making introductions to our community, our businesses, our city leaders, highlighting the property to our economic development partners, sharing our marketing materials with BIC to support their attraction strategies, connecting Mike with potential tenants such as Man Lake, coordinating strategic marketing opportunities, including participating in DEED's site selector visit to connect with key site selectors from around the US, as well as companies. Identifying economic development resources for the individual prospects that come forward, and creating an expedited path, if needed, to tap into the BLAEDC Unified Fund to support a key prospect. And please watch over the next several months as BLAEDC's Unified Fund is unveiled and takes momentum. It is our hope that this BIC facility will attain full capacity and be a great home to many companies. In closing, I am grateful for each of you, your companies, and our local units of government. Without supporters like you, we could not do the work we do today. So I now have the pleasure of introducing our program speakers. I recently joined my husband to deliver garbage to the Crow Wing County landfill. I don't think I had ever been beyond the front gate and had not been to a landfill since I was a little girl. But wow, was I in shock at how much waste our society generates. And it gave me a whole new appreciation for recycling. We are fortunate to have an individual in our community named Jeff Grunenwald. Jeff is the owner of Green Forest Recycling and started his business as one of our home-based consulting companies and now is a tenant in the Brainerd Industrial Center. Please help me welcome Jeff, who will share his story and the opportunities that may be in the future related to recycling.
About 15 months ago, I started having conversations with BLAEDC. I was in the home office and I was outgrowing it, kids running in and out of the house all the time, and I have a dash hound. Anyone who knows anything about dash hounds, if a leaf falls from a tree in the Soviet Union, it's going to bark. So a lot of conversations and telephone calls were getting interrupted, and it was time to find a new home. I was just Googling one day and looking for different opportunities, and I came across the BLAEDC webpage, and I just sent an information email out, and they got to respond back to me, and we met, and I kind of told my situation, my dream. I want a little bit more than just to have an office, because I eventually want to have a processing facility and grow that way. What I really want to do. Didn't want just the office, didn't want just the processing, but I also wanted to help grow Brainerd, grow recycling in Brainerd. After meeting with Brainerd Industrial Center in December of 2015, we moved in on I believe it was middle of January in 16, and everything settled, and soon started getting calls from local people, businesses, I'm sorry, and I believe it was probably May we started working with Cub Foods, Brainerd Baxter, and can't forget Super Value up in Pequot Lakes, and Brainerd Dispatch. They really helped get me going. The local businesses in this area really put Green Forest on the map. I'll explain that a little bit later on. We started bringing material in, and I needed to have a conversation with Brainerd Industrial Center. We need to start leasing our first space for processing. We got everything going. We got all the equipment in place. Well, throughout that time frame, throughout the summer, word was spreading throughout other companies, other printing companies in the state of Minnesota. We started getting calls from Fargo, Detroit Lakes, Duluth, down in southern Minnesota. And soon we're getting inundated with new business. Not a bad problem. It was in October, end of September, October, that we added a new baling system. We bought our first truck. We hired our first employee, and basically doubled our lease space, bought our first truck, and hired our first employee. In December, through all that, we added an operations support person as well as a part-time plant worker. So part of my goal was coming to fruition. We're adding jobs, we're gaining business, and doing well. Well, during the first couple of weeks of this year, more growth, which is great. We added another truck, added another driver, 2 part-time people. These part-time people, we work with adults with disabilities. It's a program that's true to my heart. These are great workers, great people. I enjoy them every day when they come in, always with a big smile on their face. It's just awesome. And also we added the 2 account reps, Minneapolis area and then western and southern Minnesota. I will continue to handle northern Minnesota, southern Canada, and the Dakotas. So recently we partnered with a German company, and I invited John to come at that meeting. It's called Ashcon Resource Management. They control about 10% of recycling in Europe. Ashcon had contacted the state of Minnesota. They wanted to get their footprint in the United States, and I do quite a bit of work with the state of Minnesota helping marketing some troubled materials. And they recommended they have a conversation with Green Forest. Well, we brought him up to meet at the Industrial Center. I invited BLAEDC. John was there, and it's just amazing the difference between recycling in Europe and the United States. They're so far advanced. That's a conversation for another time. So we started working with them, moving agriculture film, lumber wrap type material, and specialized films, Minnesota and in Texas. And it's a success so far, and we're going to continue to grow with that slowly but surely. There's a lot of things that they have to take care of on their end, getting into the American market. It's a little tidbit. Last year, we brokered and processed over 25 million pounds of recycling. That's a lot of material. Our goal for the future, and this is where we met, what was it, about a month or two ago we sat down and met John, and some of the big plans that we want to build infrastructure. We want to create a kind of an eco-village in Brainerd. And it's a facility that processes many different types of recycling. We want to go into use solar, geothermal, and other types of building materials that make it a little bit more green friendly. One of the things we've been discussing with the state is putting in a training facility and education center, which would be included there. Some of the other plans are the MRF management program, where we go and set up a team to go in and run management or run recycling facilities. 3 days from now, I meet with McLeod County to do just that, present my case why Green Forest should run that facility, which in turn would bring more material back to Brainerd and create more jobs. We want to expand our regional presence. We want to continue to develop relationships with the end users, continue to invest in the community, adding jobs, charitable donations, marketing the lakes area. Why wouldn't you? It's a beautiful place to live. We want to develop technology to provide more solutions to help businesses in this area to recycle and be more sustainable. Right now, a lot of people will just take the cardboard and put it next to their garbage can outside. Let's see if I can make this work. We worked with a company out of Indiana to create a container that people can put inside. Tom Hagelin with Lindar, this is kind of what we're looking at putting in your facility. It's somewhere they can put the cardboard in, we can come in, we bring an empty container, we just switch it out. It goes to our facility, it gets weighed, and then it gets processed. The neat thing about this, it's not an expense. We pay you for the cardboard. And that's some things we want to get more Brainerd businesses involved. Other new things for 2017. Where's the recycling going? A lot of the recycling that goes on in this town, we send out to have companies make ceiling tiles, insulation, shingles, egg cartons, plastic films. Just touching on where the main part of it. Some of it is obviously some of it we send overseas and it gets made into materials where it comes back and made into garbage bags and more type of films. But for the most part, everything that comes into Brainerd comes from Brainerd goes into those 5 key areas. We're looking at an acquisition. We're kind of in acquisition mode. It's a trucking company, truck shop, where it would fit into our logistic wheelhouse in central Minnesota. Because with the growth we're having, we need to spot a lot of trailers, and the trucking have someone else doing it is quite expensive, so why not do it ourselves? Adding new hubs, one in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. We have upgraded our IT and information system that you could take. If company Y we'd switch out, we'd bring that tub to our facility, we would scan it, and through the process, you would be able to track whatever's in that contents all the way to the end user. It's come in handy where a lot of people, or not a lot of people, some people would, I threw something out accidentally. Well, we can kind of track where we think it was, and then with this system, we'd be able to pretty much find either the bale or the end user for it. It's the new technology in recycling is pretty incredible. We want to grow to the multi-state and continue developing relationships with the end users. Overall, recycling is very strong, and despite rumors otherwise, commodity pricing is climbing. And we need to focus more on, recycling is something more than just putting something beside your garbage can. The technology and the opportunities in recycling is incredible, and folks, it's happening here in Brainerd. Thank you.
Exciting things to come with Green Forest. There are some amazing companies in our midst, and I feel honored to work with them. Conversations around workforce needs have been part of that dialogue with these companies for the past few years and included a request that BLAEDC help them recruit for mid-level and higher positions so they could remain competitive and not have to move or expand to the metro area. With significant input, guidance, and financial support, BLAEDC designed a program to help lead the way. And I am pleased to introduce Mike Bjerknes, BLAEDC's Workforce Director, so the story of our new key recruitment program can be shared.
Thank you, Michael.
Good afternoon. People all the time ask me, Mike, how did you become a recruiter? And I'll be honest, my answer is always the same. I have no clue. Born and raised in Brainerd, attended CLC for a couple years. A trip down to St. Cloud State for business always gets you back to your hometown to be an IT telecom help desk technician, correct? It's usually the simple route anyway. I worked in the telecommunications field for 10 years, 4 as a help desk specialist, 6 years as a repair manager, and then a layoff in 2009 forced me out of the telecom field. Being unemployed for 6 months made me sit back and realize how hard it is to find a new career in Brainerd, Minnesota, because I thought the only thing I knew was telecom. Little did I know the skills that I had learned from my telecom management, actually with hiring employees, doing onboarding paperwork, and conducting the dreaded face-to-face reviews that you do each year, would ultimately set me up with a new career path. I accepted a position with ProStaff on a temporary basis, making less money working than what my unemployment check was each week, just to see if I'd enjoy the recruitment world, and I discovered that I loved it. For the past 7 years, I've specialized in administrative, light industrial, and IT recruitment for multiple businesses in the Brainerd area before taking the BLAEDC position as workforce director with Sheila and her team. I discovered I have a passion for helping individuals as well as businesses to both succeed. There truly is nothing better than hearing someone's voice crack or to see the excitement or a quick tear down the face when you've given them a job opportunity of a lifetime. Now that I've covered a little bit on how I've gotten here, I want to turn around and dive in and share a little bit of the nuts and bolts about the key recruitment program with you. Census, CTC, Micronet, Savannah's Technologies, along with a grant from the Blandon Foundation, jumped to the front of the line with funding dollars to get the program up and launched. BLAEDC heard from local businesses that they needed help in both promoting as well as recruiting talent to their businesses to be successful. The key recruitment program takes a two-prong approach to this. The first is a membership. We offer 3 different levels: a basic, a supporter, and a partnership level, depending on what the business needs are. There's a level for every business in this room to be part of the workforce development effort that's taking place here in the Brainerd Lakes area. The membership dollars are used for a variety of things, such as marketing, airport video advertising, relocation information, and for us to attend job fairs outside the area to promote the Brainerd Lakes community as a great place to live, work, and play. Membership dollars also help to support the spousal placement component of this program. If you're a member of the key recruitment program and you hire an employee whose spouse needs help finding employment here, the key recruitment program will turn around and send their resumes out to additional businesses at no costs. It's really a win-win for both sides. The second part of the program is a fee-based recruitment model where businesses would agree to pay BLAEDC a direct hire fee should we successfully place a qualified candidate for them. As an example, some of the positions we'll be working on are software developers, HR professionals, controllers, office managers, general managers, engineers, and the list really goes on. Anyone you can see as a mid to higher level key employee for your organization would fit the model and the bill of the program. Our goal is to be a partner with businesses to help them attract the perfect candidate and to help their organization in a timely and effective manner so we can grow and expand business in the community. I'm happy to say to date we've had 4 successful placements, a spousal placement, and 3 direct hires. We hired a GIS mapping consultant for CTC that was living in our community and doing consulting work for a company out of Oceanside, California. We hired an individual that's moving to Brainerd here shortly from Hibbing that's going to be a general manager for a new equipment company that will be digging ground here this spring. And we also hired an IT professional that came to Brainerd via Dallas, Texas. I'm happy to say that the individual is sitting in the room with you today, but before you find out where he's sitting at, I want to let Lisa Barnett, the Chief Operating Officer with Micronet, come up and say a few words about their company. Please help me welcome Lisa.
Well, thank you, Mike, and it's certainly a pleasure to be in the company of so many people that are committed to the vitality of this area. So let me flip ahead here and share with you a little bit about Micronet in general and then about our involvement with the Key Recruitment Program. So first of all, who is Micronet? We often like to say that we're one of the hidden gems in the Lakes area. We are a high-growth software as a service, or SaaS, technology company that is building a tech hub in Nisswa, Minnesota, which I realize is kind of a paradoxical statement. We're really focused on building a technology hub that can rival those of more traditional locations like Silicon Valley, but be located right here in rural Minnesota. So in terms of what Micronet actually is, we always try to start with really focusing on our why. Why are we in business? What is our purpose as an organization? And for us, our why starts with the fact that we fundamentally believe that communities matter, whether those are communities of like-minded people or they're physical communities like the Brainerd Lakes area. And we believe that associations are typically very much unsung heroes in helping communities to both function and thrive. And we want to be playing a critical role in helping those associations to be able to be successful and to be able to function effectively, often with very strapped resources. So with that, we focus on empowering associations so that they can in turn help to propel their members, and we happen to do that by producing software. So Micronet started in 1996, and BLAEDC was actually very instrumental in many of the key phases of our growth as an organization. Early in the company's development, when the original owners were looking for expanding with angel investment, BLAEDC was really key in helping to facilitate that next stage of the company by creating some introductions and helping to build connections with the potential investors who ended up being a very critical part of that phase of our company and beyond. And that has really allowed us to now move into this high growth phase that we're a part of currently. Our product was initially focused on really being developed in collaboration with the Brainerd Lakes Chamber, and was a software that was designed to help chambers run their organizations. We worked in partnership with Lisa Paxton at the time and have continued to work with the chamber throughout the history of the company, and built that initial software that was pretty much entirely focused on helping chambers run their business. That continues to be a very critical part of our business, and today approximately 1 out of every 2 chambers in the United States is using our Chamber Master software platform. More recently, we started to see that other types of associations were looking to use our software for that same type of function of helping them to more effectively run their associations, to grow their membership, retain their membership, create engagement opportunities with their members. So we set out to take what we had learned in working with the chambers and build an association-specific software that was called Member Zone. And as things kind of tend to come full circle, BLAEDC was actually our first customer on the new platform that we have been building that is focused on associations that was recently launched in 2012 at a beta stage and is now in full production and being used by associations throughout the country and outside of the United States as well. So we're now very much in what we would consider high growth phase. We're projected to continue to see that growth rate continue for the very much the foreseeable future. We currently have over 80 team members, and just to give you a little bit of perspective about what high growth means, within that 80 team member size, we've added about 8 new team members since the first of the year. So definitely keeping our HR staff on their toes and doing a lot of new employee onboarding. So why the key recruitment program? As Mike had introduced, we were one of the initial companies that chose to work with BLAEDC in the development of the key recruitment program. And it's something that I'll share with you in a moment, but has already been proving to be successful for us. So because we are a high-tech company that has a frequent need for team members in areas like technical support, software development, quality assurance, all of those type of technology positions, it can sometimes be quite challenging to recruit for those types of roles in the Lakes area that tends to be more dominated by manufacturing and tourism. We have a very strong commitment to this region, and our bias is to always try to find team members that can live and work within the area as opposed to looking to have remote-based employees, although we do have some of those as well. But there's always something to be said about being able to have a group of team members sit in a room together, push their sleeves up, and work together on a project. So there are definitely instances where we're able to find those candidates effectively on our own, but we also know that there can be some great candidates that are out there who value the lifestyle opportunities that this area affords, but we may not always know how to reach them. And that's where the key recruitment program really became a means to help support our existing recruitment efforts. We find that there are many companies in the area that do need tech workers and are not always at the point where they can afford to hire a full-time recruiter. So we love the idea of being able to have a shared service among those different types of companies. And while that does introduce a bit of competition for great candidates among other companies within the area, we fundamentally believe that the more we can geek out the Brainerd Lakes area, the more that it will be a benefit to the entire region, and we'll end up coming out ahead in the long term. So with that, I want to just share with you how this new key recruitment program has already started to be successful for us and for our team in finding our first team member through the program that we've experienced so far. And I would say that that's probably the first of many. I'm currently looking for a software product manager, so put Mike to work if you know of anyone. So we worked with Mike and the key recruitment program to recently add Colin Thames to our quality assurance and data conversion team. And as Mike introduced, Colin joined our team and saw his first real snowfall after relocating from Texas, and I have assured him he has not seen a real snowfall yet. So we happened to be able to catch a photo of Colin out in the snow last week before it quickly disappeared, but that's surely the first of many snowfalls that he will see now that he's a Minnesotan. So why would a Texas guy that's a tech guy join a company in Nisswa? First, Colin was actually looking to move to Minnesota based on some family connections, which is just one of the examples of exactly the kind of placements that the BLAEDC program is trying to do. People that want to be in this area but don't know how to bring their skill set and be able to get placed into a job that can allow them to be able to put their craft to work. And that was exactly what we were looking for in being able to find Colin. Mike helped to make that connection with Colin and make sure that his skills were going to be able to be put to work here in the Lakes area, which certainly proved to be a win-win for us. And Colin's expertise has definitely been a terrific fit for Micronet. He quickly became very much just part of the team, and he's already been making a lot of very meaningful contributions. So Colin, if you want to maybe just stand up for one moment and let everyone put a face with the name. And one of the key things that I think differentiates the key recruitment program from other types of placement services is that the work really doesn't end once the placement occurs. I didn't actually know it at the time, but after Colin joined our team, Mike continued to be very much involved in helping to make sure that Colin could be having a successful transition to the Lakes area by really lending support in many other ways. So Mike is going to share a little bit more about that now.
The work of the Key Recruitment Program does not stop once a business makes a successful job offer. For example, when Colin accepted the position with Micronet, I worked to put him in contact with housing professionals in the area so he could check out options. I got him in connection with CTC for internet and TV services for his new townhome. And we even worked on banking and financial institution options for the Brainerd area so that he could open a banking and checking account and get prepared. The point is, we want to make sure that anyone that moves to the area for employment through the Key Recruitment Program feels welcomed and has all of the resources they need with area professionals. If you have an interest in sponsoring the program so your business gets your name in front of these individuals as they move in, please let me know. On your tables, you'll see I provided a coaster for everybody. We've designed it in hopes that you'll use them under your coffee cups daily. The next time you need to hire a key employee, please give me a call at the number provided on there. BLAEDC and the Key Recruitment Program look forward to being a true partner with each and every business in this room to help you with all your workforce needs. Thank you.
I'm so excited with this new program and Mike and meeting the needs of our company, so please connect with us if we can help you. And now I have the pleasure of introducing Charlie Weaver, Executive Director of the Minnesota Business Partnership, a nonprofit, nonpartisan public policy organization composed of 115 CEOs representing Minnesota's leading employers. Charlie's resume is impressive. He served as Chief of Staff for Governor Tim Pawlenty, was former Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Public Safety, established and led Minnesota's Office of Homeland Security, served as a criminal prosecutor in Anoka County, and was elected to the Minnesota House of Representatives. Charlie has a political science degree, attended the University of Minnesota Law School, has 4 children, and is active in the Anoka community where his family has deep roots. Please help me welcome Charlie.
Thank you. Thanks. Thanks so much. This thing is working. Awesome. Can you all hear me in the back there? I was told once, as Sheila said, I'm a criminal prosecutor. We do jury analysis after you do a trial. And after one of the trials, I sent a note to the jury and said, how'd I do on this? Did I call good witnesses? Was I good in cross-examining the defendant? And one of the responses was, oh yeah, you were really good with the cops. You did a good job cross-examining the bad guys, but you have a voice like Winnie the Pooh. Like, seriously, that's not. So if you can't hear Winnie the Pooh in the back, just let me know. I am honored to be here today. I love this area. Although I have to say, when I look at that picture, it kind of freaks me out. Because when I came up here 50 years ago, right, I was 8 years old. My brother Tom was 6. My brother Andy was 4. And what do? You go to Paul Bunyan Land, right? So we walk into Paul Bunyan Land. We walk in, we're little kids, we're all excited, and all of a sudden Paul says, hello, Andy Weaver. And he goes tearing out, screaming. My little brother, he's 4 years old, he goes screaming outside of Paul Bunyan, and my mom chased him for like a block. He just totally scared the crap out of him. So whenever I look at this picture, I think, oh man, scary. And I know he's moved now. He's out by the thing. I saw him on my way here. And I grew up here, going to here up to this area every summer. So I love this community. This is where I grew up. Every summer was here on North Long Lake. The yellow circle there is where I grew up, that kind of area right there. Been there, going there for 60 years. My grandfather bought it a long time ago. As a matter of fact, some of you may not know, there used to be a bridge going between those 2 points on North Long Lake. As you look to your right, as you're going up 371, there used to be a bridge over that. It got taken down in the ice in 1917. They rebuilt it, and then it fell down again in 1920, and it was gone forever. But it's a cool area. That's my grandfather in the middle after a couple cocktails. You can probably tell. That's in his deer camp. He's the one who bought our cabin at the time. These are my aunts. We had horses up there every summer, which is a great time. This is again my grandfather with a very successful deer hunt. As you can see, back in those days, they got him strapped all over the car, right? Yeah, the PETA would not like this picture, right? I love this picture. So this is my father on the right, up in North Long Lake, growing up with some fish, and then 50 years ago, that's me, the weird-looking guy, second from the left. We're burning stuff I'm sure the DNR would not allow now, but that's on the point there, North Long Lake. So the bottom line is, I love this community. I grew up on North Long. It's a beautiful area, and what you're doing here is so important. It's so important for the private sector to really be engaged in economic development. That's what I want to talk about here today a little bit. Sheila asked me to talk about what are the challenges going forward for the companies I represent, which are the biggest companies in the state, but they're definitely interrelated. I mean, as large companies go, small companies go. We're all kind of in this together. So I'll talk about that. Feel free, as I'm talking, to interrupt. If you have a question or anything, just throw a napkin at me or something. But I'm going to go quickly through this because I want to make sure we get you out of here on time. So a little bit about the partnership. It's 120 members made up of CEOs only. This is the organization I represent. We represent almost 2 million people worldwide, 400,000 employees in Minnesota. So that tells you something about our companies right there, right? That for the companies I work with, 2 million employees in the world, but only 400,000 here. As a matter of fact, companies like Cargill, less than 5% of Cargill's employees are in Minnesota. Less than 10% of General Mills' employees are in Minnesota. It's true for a lot of these global companies. They're here, they're headquartered here, which is really important, but they're big global companies. We pay billions of dollars in wages and benefits, $13 billion in taxes here in Minnesota, and make over 400 million charitable contributions. You all know these companies that I work with. We have the second highest percentage in the country of large companies per capita. We're just blessed in Minnesota to have these great companies like United Health Group, Target, Best Buy, 3M, Ecolab. You know all these companies. Hormel, Mosaic, Thrivent, St. Jude. I'm sorry if it's too small for the folks in the back, but you recognize a lot of them, and a lot of them are in this community. 7, also a lot of people don't talk about the number of private companies that are huge here in Minnesota alone. I mentioned Cargill. They're the largest private company in the country and one of the top 10 largest private companies in the world. And they're right here in Minnesota. Carlson Company, you all are familiar with. Holiday Gas, right? Rosen's. You probably haven't heard of Rosen's Diversified, but if you eat a hamburger anywhere in this country, Rosen's probably touched. It's a little company down in Fairmont, Minnesota, but they're involved in meat and hamburgers all across the country. Schwann's, Mortensen, Anderson Windows, these are all huge private companies that we work with as well. And it's not, my organization is not just Minneapolis, St. Paul centric. We also represent other companies that are clearly outside the Twin Cities. Marvin, Apogee down southern Minnesota, Otter Tail Power, Hormel, Mayo, Red Wing Shoes, Polaris and Arctic Cat up north, Winger down south, Michael Foods. These are just some of the companies that we represent that are around throughout Minnesota. So we represent all these companies throughout Minnesota. And what's our mission? We just want to grow jobs. That's it. We just want to grow jobs in this state. So it's really simple for me. I don't have to remember a lot. So how we doing? How we doing in this state? Well, we're doing pretty darn well in Minnesota compared to a lot of other states around the country. And there's really 6 reasons why we're doing so well here. So let me just quickly walk through kind of these reasons why Minnesota is successful in really winning the war in a lot of states in terms of economic development. We've got a great workforce. We're the second highest in the nation for percentage of working adults who have an associate degree or higher. So we're well educated here in Minnesota. 70% of Minnesota adults have at least some college. That's the highest percentage in the country in terms of college educated adults. Our labor participation rate at 71% is the highest in the nation, and we have one of the lowest unemployment rates at 3.9%. So that is all really important as you're trying to grow and fight for talent, as some of the earlier speakers said. Also, our public education system is stronger than most. In a lot of states, people send their kids to private schools because the public schools just aren't that good. And this is really important when you're trying to recruit executives here from other states. How's your public education system? And we're very good. We're ranked second in math proficiency, ninth in reading in the country. We have the high school graduation rate is 81%. It's the highest it's been in the last decade. And Minnesota's been an innovator, right? We've invented things here that other states have caught on to and charted and initiated and helped them be more successful, like charter schools. They were started here in Minnesota. They've exploded around the country now. Post-secondary enrollment options is very popular. Open enrollment, being able to move from district to district, that was something that started here in Minnesota. These are all innovations that have helped us be more successful and had a good education system here in Minnesota. Also, a diversified economy. That is so important. As one part of the economy may fail or struggle, the other part picks it up. In Minnesota, we are blessed with this broad array of companies who do a variety of things. Headquarters in business services is a key part of a lot of companies here in Minnesota. Health and life sciences, Medtronic, St. Jude, 3M, think of those. Food and water solutions, think about Ecolab or Pentair, again, 3M. Minnesota is one of the greatest states in the country in terms of water solutions. Advanced manufacturing and technology. You can imagine, again, companies like 3M, Medtronic, Cargill is very inventive. Financial services like Dane, like Securian. There are all a number of financial services companies here. That's, again, unique to this community. And then tourism. That's a picture, for those of you in the back, of Governor Pawlenty. The first ever Minnesota deer opener was right up the road here, which I'm very proud of. I talked him into doing that. There'd never been a governor's deer opener before that one. That was back in 2003. Now he's done it every year, the governor has. So tourism is important too, especially in this community, right? If you didn't have tourism, I think we talked about your population grows about 5-fold in the summer here, thanks to tourism. So obviously that's an important part of growth here in Minnesota as well. So the fact that we've got all these different sectors doing so very well is really important. We aren't like North Dakota, right? If oil goes down, they're in deep trouble. Or Houston, Texas. If oil goes down, they're in deep trouble. Or other states that are really relying on one industry, we've got this great variety of industries, and it helps us succeed even when the economy may be failing in one or the other. Our business community is very engaged, very active. You see these communities, they give a lot of money to charities. Matter of fact, corporations account for almost half of all the charitable grants in Minnesota. When you go to the Capitol, it's really frustrating because you hear some legislators say, oh, those big bad corporations, they're evil and they're bad and we should get rid of them. And you know, so my daughter goes to St. Olaf. Last week, Angela Davis, remember the Black Panther, Angela Davis, was at St. Olaf. Her whole speech was about how capitalism is bad. Capitalism is bad, and everybody should work for a nonprofit or for government. It's exactly the wrong message that we're delivering in our college systems, and this kind of thing showing that, in fact, if you didn't have some of these great companies contributing to society, contributing to arts and theater and music and the great quality of life we have here, that's a big advantage we have in Minnesota. We have a headquarters economy. The result of having these great headquarters is we grow other companies here. And frankly, you're not going to get Boeing to come to Minnesota. So it's really important that we grow these large companies we have. And mid-sized companies exist because of these great companies. Think of the ad agencies that are here because of Target or Best Buy, or the suppliers that are here because of Medtronic or General Mills. And of course, our We've got a real strong history of CEOs being very engaged in the communities itself, too. They're heading the United Way campaigns. They're leading the orchestra, or they're leading the symphony. These are things that, in a lot of states, the leaders of communities or leaders of companies don't get engaged. They do here in Minnesota. Natural resources also, a great advantage we have here, and you know it. Here, I love your saying, we have jobs, we have fun. Having fun is important, and it's a great asset you've got here in Brainerd, right, of great attraction for a guy to come here from Dallas, right? Why wouldn't you come here if you can catch a big fish like that guy's catching right there, right? This is an important advantage for us as well. And we may not talk about it, but the fact that we've got 4 sports teams, professional sports teams, is unusual, and it's an advantage. When they were debating whether or not to build US Bank Stadium, they talked a lot about an NFL franchise. And if you have a city or a community without an NFL franchise, you are not looked at as a major city. And it's hard to recruit people to those towns. So the fact that you've got great sports here and great more theater seats per capita than anywhere outside New York, that's a big deal too for recruitment and retention. Other bragging rights here, we're #1 in the country in volunteering, most civically engaged, great healthcare system, voter turnout, we're #2, the healthiest populations. Just last week they said we're one of the best states overall in the country, 3rd best state. United Way, standard of living, you all know these things. This is why we all live here. When you compare to other states, we got a lot going on. And America's best weather, right? This is impressive. And they did it again this year, didn't they?
Oh, yeah.
Barely, right? Got it in. This is a picture of your ice house thing up here. Man, amazing. Now, some other things you may not know about. St. Paul was voted America's most romantic city. I don't know why. I mean, seriously, have you guys been in St. Paul? No. Nisswa is more romantic than St. Paul. But USA Today said that. We're also the brain power state, #1 ACT average, which is true, and #1 citizens holding high school diplomas, really important in today's economy. So that's impressive. BuzzFeed, I don't know who reads BuzzFeed, but we're the most hipster state, I guess. Not in Anoka, I can tell you that. No, we aren't that hip. And sadly, we are #1 in mosquito related. So it's not all good news, right? So this is an awesome state. We are blessed to live here. We got a lot going for us. But there are challenges too we need to pay attention to, and Minnesota is changing and the economy is changing. So let's just talk about some of the challenges that our companies face that I'm sure you're facing as well. There's basically 3: taxes and regulation, infrastructure, and talent and workforce. So taxes and regulation first. This isn't a news flash to all of you in the audience who have businesses, right? We have the 3rd highest individual income tax. And when people think about the individual income tax, they think, well, we're going to tax those rich guys, right? We're going to tax those CEOs who are making millions of dollars. That's who we're going to get when we do that. Well, how many of you in this room are S corporations, right? Pass-through corporations, right? What you're getting is a small business. That's who you're killing with this high income tax. And it's actually the 2nd highest income tax in the country, between $150,000 and about $350,000. If that's what you earn in your business, it's brutal. And I don't think a lot of legislators they wanted to pass that tax to get the rich people, but they're actually killing small businesses who are pass-through businesses. 2nd highest rural commercial property tax, 3rd highest corporate income tax in the country, 5th highest metro commercial, and 7th highest sales tax. So this is a challenge. We don't want to be the lowest tax state, right? We're proud. One of the reasons we have a great education system is because we fund quality schools and we fund good education. But do we really need to be in the top 5 in everything? One of the challenges is the business property tax in Minnesota. Very few states even have a 2nd business property tax. You all pay property taxes to your local units of government, right? The state and city tax you. But in Minnesota, we have this 2nd tier. It's really a 2nd property tax on businesses in cabins that has started in 2002 and has gone steadily up now to over $800 million. That's a challenge for businesses because it's a punitive tax that continues to go up. And then when you combine the challenge of the tax base is declining. So the top line is services, the bottom line is goods. In Minnesota, and Minnesota's economy is shifting from goods to services, right? We produce less, but we have more and more services. The problem is we don't tax services. We tax goods, by and large. So, as a result of that, the less of Minnesota's economy is being taxed by the sales tax. So it used to be, back in 1970, over 50% of our economy was taxed by a sales tax. Now, it's just barely over 30% because of the separation of goods and services. But that's a tough political fight, too, at the legislature, because a lot of economists would stand here and tell you, if you want to have a healthy state, if you want to have a state that doesn't go up and down and up and down in terms of tax collections, one year you're in a recession, the next year you've got a surplus, next year in a recession, you need to flatten that out so it's more predictable. You should be taxing clothes. You should be taxing food, because that's stable, right, as opposed to the income tax, which is up and down. But who wants to do that? What legislator wants to go and say, hey, I just voted to tax food in Minnesota, or I'm going to tax, diapers? No way. So that's the challenge is, even though an economist would say, if you want to have a steady income and a rising income in Minnesota to prevent these up and down, you should be taxing more goods and less services. But it's a tough political sell. We also have this estate tax in Minnesota. Only 10 states have an estate tax. That's a tax you pay when you die, right? And it really is punitive. In Minnesota, you only have 1.6 million exempt before the death tax. The estate tax applies. That's low. And again, I think a lot of people, the legislators, think, well, if you have more than $1 million in your estate, we should start taxing you. We're going to get those rich guys, right? We're going to get those rich guys. But who this tax kills are farmers. It really kills farmers who want to pass on their farm when they die. But if they've got a farm that's valued at $5 million, oftentimes the kids have to sell a piece of the farm to pay the tax. And again, only 10 states even have an estate tax. And Minnesota is one of the worst. So that's one of the things you're going to hear them talking about the legislature this year is either raising that up, raising the exemption up to match the federal tax, which is about 5.5 million in estate tax before they start taxing you. That's the least they should do here in Minnesota. Otherwise, we're just killing farmers especially. And frankly, we lose a lot of talent. A lot of people who are here, they're executives for General Mills or they're executives for Target. As soon as they retire, they're out of here, right? They leave Minnesota, which is not a good thing because they have talent and they have money. They have money they can invest in startups. They have money they can invest in small businesses. But if you continue to have one of the highest income taxes in the country and then this estate tax, so their kids lose any of their money when they die, they don't stick around. So that's a problem. And then we've got workplace mandates. That's a big challenge right now. It's a hot issue at the legislature right now. Basically, this is about local cities who are starting to pass different labor laws. So Minneapolis passed a labor law on sick leave. And then St. Paul, not wanting to be outdone, passed a different labor law on sick leave. And now Duluth is thinking about, well, we should pass a sick leave labor law. And then, we should do minimum wage too. We should do a $15 minimum wage. And then, so you got all these labor laws that are starting to be passed in different cities around the state. And you can imagine the chaos that creates. If you're a U.S. bank, let's say, and you're in 200 cities. There's 800 cities in Minnesota. If every one of those cities passed a different labor law, how in the world could you keep track of that? Or if you're Joe's dry cleaner, right? And you've got a dry cleaning in Brainerd and Nisswa and Bemidji and Thief River Falls, and each one has a different labor law, how is Joe going to handle that from an HR perspective? It's insane. And more than 30 states have passed laws saying, we're going to preempt this at the state level. So at least it's we're going to have statewide labor laws, so at least businesses don't have to figure out what city they're in. In St. Paul, their law, their sick leave law says, if you spend 80 hours in St. Paul, 80 hours in a year, then your company has to pay sick leave to your employees, 6 days sick leave. 80 hours. So if you're the Schwann's truck driver and you're driving around St. Paul for 80 hours in a year, Schwann's has to now pay that driver paid sick leave. even though Schwann's isn't even in St. Paul, right? Or anybody. It could be the US West guy. It could be the UPS guy. It could be anybody who's in your town for 80 hours. Just imagine the hassle that creates. So minimum wage I mentioned, paid family and medical leave. Predictive scheduling is another one that Minneapolis teed up last year. Basically, you'd have to give the state, you have to give your employees 28 days notice of their schedule. Otherwise, you get fined. So if you change an employee's schedule within that 28-day period, you're going to get fined every time you change it. So let's say you have Joe's snow removal, right? You're doing snow removal. How are you supposed to predict 28 days out when the next snowfall is, right? It's impossible. So this is a big challenge. So it's something that's in Minnesota is uniquely a challenge. So what we're proposing at the Capitol, and we work very closely with the Chamber of Commerce on this as well, is reduce the statewide business property tax, increase the research and development credit to encourage companies to grow and expand here and do research, and do the federal conformity on the estate tax, preempt all these local labor laws, and then streamline our regulatory environment. So you don't have, if you're going to expand your business, you don't have to go to 5 different state and federal agencies to get permits. How about going to one spot and getting a permit? We aren't asking for, to pollute the environment. We're just saying let's make it easier and streamline so we can get things. It's not so impossible to get some of those things done. So that's number one. Number two, infrastructure. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on infrastructure. It's important. You all know that we need good roads if we're going to move goods and people and services here in Minnesota. The current challenge is that, and again, I'm sorry for the people in the back, but we've got a cliff coming. From 2017 here, this is the total amount of spending for MnDOT for building roads and bridges. This is total spending. In 2018, there's a cliff because a lot of the federal and state money is going away. So the challenge of the state is, how do we fill that cliff? How do we fill that hole, I should say, so that we continue to do growth in roads and bridges? There's a variety of proposals at the Capitol. It's about a $250 million shortfall that will happen between 2017 and 2018. Everyone agrees the need is about $600 million a year in order to move forward. That's the challenge, but how do you get the $600 million? Our view is, unlike most states, Minnesota now doesn't use any general fund to fund transportation. We don't use any of the general fund dollars to fund transportation. We just use the gas tax. Our suggestion is if you want to expand this, we should use some general fund money, the taxes on auto parts and rental cars, to fund transportation infrastructure. That can be one piece of the puzzle. Adjust the license tab fees would raise $10 billion. And it's not raising the tab fees, it's just expanding it. So right now, as you know, the older your car is, the less you pay. If you go from 4 years to 5 years before the reduction kicks in, it raises a lot of money. We think that makes sense. MnDOT has said they can be more efficient. That's $630 million. We do some bonding. And then in terms of transit, let the Metro do the transit, right? If they want to build a train, let them fund the train. That's kind of a consensus, I think, now at the Capitol. It was a big fight last year. That's why they didn't pass a transportation bill. It was this fight over transit. But now the counties are saying, we'll take that, we'll fund that through our sales tax. So if you go down to a Viking game or a Twins game, you're going to pay $10 for a beer because the sales tax is going to be high. Matter of fact, a beer in Minneapolis costs more than a beer in Manhattan right now because of all the taxes that are there. So don't go down a lot. But that's what they're going to use to fund transit, which we think makes a lot of sense. Last, and probably most important in terms of the challenges we face, is talent and workforce. And I've heard it time and time again, whether you have a one-person shop or you're the head of 3M, they're all worried about talent. So let's talk about that. And the fact is that if you don't get an education, you got no shot. Right? We all know this. This is in the Supreme Court decision of Brown versus Board of Education. Now, there's really 2 challenges in Minnesota in terms of talent going forward. Number one, people are leaving. They're leaving. They're either leaving the state or they're retiring. So that's one part of the challenge, is we're just losing a part of the workforce. And then the second part is the talent pool coming up behind them is shallow. It's shallow, and we don't have nearly enough people coming into the workforce behind them. So let's talk about that briefly. This just shows some good news. The blue on top shows the number of unemployed people. And you can see, this is from 2001 to 2016, the number of unemployed people is going down. So that's good news. More and more people are employed. The bottom thing is the number of vacancies, and that's going up. So the good news is they're merging. The bad news is there are fewer people around to do the work, and there's more and more vacancies coming up. So that's the challenge we face. We've really got a workforce shortage in Minnesota that affects every industry. Another part of the challenge is people are leaving the state. In this graph, the light blue here, these are people coming into Minnesota or leaving Minnesota from other states. Okay? And you can see, starting in 1991 through about 2002, there were more people coming into Minnesota from other states than were leaving. But then, starting in 2002, these are people now, the net loss to Minnesota. So starting in 2002 all the way up until today, now there are more people who leave Minnesota than come to Minnesota from other states. The dark blue is international folks. So the good news is, even though we're losing Minnesotans to other states, we are getting people who are coming here, international students, immigrants who are coming here to fill a lot of those jobs. But as we know, a lot of those folks aren't prepared to do the work, so that's the challenge. Demographics, this is scary. This scares me. It should scare your kids. Beginning in 2020, for each new working age adult added to the MSP area, that's the Twin Cities, there's going to be 21 new retirement age adults. So for every one person who's going to work, there's 21 people who are going to be retiring. That is a number that just doesn't work if you don't have a ton of new people coming into the workforce. And by 2035, older adults are going to eclipse children, 0 to 17, for the first time ever in the state. Ever. So you got a ton of people, and by the way, the older adults, 65 and over, those are the most expensive people in our society, right? Because they're the ones who are getting Social Security, they're the ones who tend to fall and get hurt, they're the ones who tend to use a lot of medical and healthcare benefits. So this is going to be a challenge just in terms of, do we have people to do the jobs? And then we've got an achievement gap in Minnesota that's the worst in the country, especially in Minneapolis and St. Paul. And you may be sitting there thinking, well, who cares? It's Minneapolis and St. Paul. We're here in Brainerd, we got good schools around us, Pequot Lakes, Nisswa, I mean, this is a good area. You should care because if we leave 50% of the kids on the bench, who aren't even graduating, 50% of the black kids in Minneapolis don't even graduate from high school. If we leave them on the bench, that creates a huge challenge, and if our businesses can't get talent, they're just going to leave, and that's going to affect all of you up here. So the fact that it's in Minneapolis and St. Paul is a problem, but it's also going to affect all of us who live in the state. We have the worst overall academic performance among non-whites in the country. And in Minneapolis, only 1 out of 4 students of color are reading or doing math at grade level. I mean, we should be ashamed of this, but this is something this is not new at all. You can see in Minneapolis, these are African American students reading at grade level, 3rd grade and 8th grade. Some people say, well, it's gotten better, and we put a bunch of money into it. Well, in 2001, in Minneapolis, 31% of the African American students were reading at grade level. 2014, 23%. It's gotten worse. St. Paul, same thing. They were at 34% in 2001, now they're at 25% in 2014. So, and by the way, we've invested billions of dollars in the inner cities to try to get at this challenge. So it's not working, and this is a big problem for our members. And of course, education disparities leads to economic disparities. Something the governor talks a lot about is that we have an economic disparities in our workforce. Well, if we don't fix the educational disparities at first, we can't fix the economic disparities. So you'll talk about immigration. We need immigrants. Highlight to the president. Right? We need immigrants here in Minnesota to do a lot of these jobs. More than 63,000 additional net immigrants will be needed by 2020 to prevent a loss to the state's labor force. That just assumes a flat rate, and we want to grow. So this is a big, big challenge. H-1B visas, these are visas that are given to scientists, mathematicians, lawyers, doctors. They're the visas that Mayo Clinic uses and Medtronic uses and 3M uses. They're being capped, and now I just read yesterday they're going to lower those visas. These are really important. These bring in the most talented people from across the world to work at our great Fortune 500 companies. And yet right now, they're capping those visas. That's a big challenge. And keep in mind, 40% of the Fortune 500 companies in this country were started by immigrants. So I know it's easy to take shots at immigrants, and obviously we've got to be careful who comes into the country, but Minnesota is not going to be successful if we don't figure out this challenge. And we need immigrants in order to succeed. So our view, set high standards, measure and report progress, give educators the flexibility they need, and then give families the ability to choose. These are the principles that we have for success for K-12 education. Specifically this session, we want to expand the education credit. We think scholarships for early education is really important, but let's target them. Not universal, let's target them at those parents and families that need them. Streamline the teacher licensure, make it easier for teachers from other states to come to Minnesota because we've got a teacher shortage. I don't know if you saw the front page last week. Big teacher shortage coming in Minnesota. So we need to make it easy for people to become teachers here. And then we need to incentivize schools to give testing. Testing's kind of gotten a bad name. People complain, oh, my kids take too many tests. Well, the fact of the matter is, though, the MCA is the only test in the state that tests every student the same. So it's apples to apples. And if schools start opting out of those tests, we have no way to compare and see how they're doing. And parents have no way to know, how's my kid doing compared to the kid in Nisswa, if I'm in Brainerd, or Pequot Lakes, or Minneapolis. So it's important that we make sure that kids continue to take at least that test. We're running out of time, so I'm not asked to talk about the Trump factor. Let me just say this. There's good news and there's bad news. Right? There's some good things the president has talked about in terms of trade, a fair trade, fair trading system with our partners across the world is important to us to be successful, especially in Minnesota. His proposal to walk away from NAFTA is a disaster. It's a disaster for General Mills. It's a disaster for Cargill. It's a disaster for all our ag industry. You can't just shut down NAFTA and trading with Canada and Mexico. Tax reform, if he can pass tax reform and lower the corporate tax rate nationally, which is currently the highest in the world, this is why a lot of our companies are leaving money overseas. If we can lower it to 20% instead of 35, 36%, then we can compete. And all our companies would bring money back home and grow jobs here in Minnesota. And he supports infrastructure, which is a good thing. The challenge is, how do you pay for it? How do you pay for it? And the border adjustment fee that the GOP wants to do, the border adjustment tax, which attacks importers, would be devastating to a lot of our companies here, like Best Buy, like Target, who import a lot of goods. A 20% increase in their taxes would be felt by every consumer in this room, and is a bad idea. So we're hoping we can figure it out. So you got some challenges. Bottom line, though, hey, we pass beer on Sundays. All right? So that's a good thing. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you, Charlie. Some very interesting information there. We probably have time for 1 or 2 questions for Charlie, if anybody has any. Anybody have a question that stumped Charlie?
Soundly asleep.
All right. Going, gone. All right.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you coming for BLAEDC 2016 annual meeting, and have a great day. Thank you.